John. Bit of a fool, but working on that. Today I want to talk about family. I've got a bit of a complicated family. I guess that's really the best way to put it. I've got a wonderful twin sister, a great mom, and a hardworking dad. But at the same time, I also have a religion-absorbed mom, a previously mentally ill sister, and a cheater from dad. So it's complicated. What I'm struggling with lately is really focused about my dad. So he divorced my mom a few years ago. Came out that he was having an affair, and we do not know the details of said affair, or, well, we can't prove the details of said affair. Let's leave it at that. But there's a fair bit of knowing without being able to prove it. And so what ended up happening is he got into a new relationship with a younger woman, and he's extraordinarily happy, and I suppose I'm happy for him too. But there's been a couple not so good things that have come out of this. The biggest of which is that he stopped really acting like a dad, and he's more like an uncle even, I'd go as far to say, or distant like cousin. I don't see very much of him these days, and things are just a little strained, I'd say. So he's very committed to his new partner, and they seem to be doing very well for themselves. But I can't help but have this feeling that he's moving on, and it's a horrible feeling to have. Especially because it's not just one that I have, it's one that I share with my sister. She feels much more strongly that my dad is moving on from us, and she suffers from borderline personality disorder. If you don't know anything about it, the gist of it is that you feel your emotions incredibly strongly. If you feel sad, someone with BPD feels 10 times sad. If you feel happy, they feel 10 times happier. And they're almost a slave to their emotions because they're so strong. Think about that one time that you saw a movie and there's a sad scene and you wanted to tear up a bit. Someone with BPD can't help but just sob uncontrollably. Or the one time you were frustrated, well, they're seething, raging, angry. And so growing up with her was tough, but we're past that, and now she's a phenomenal sister. I don't know where I'd be without her. She is what's the term? A stone? A rock? A rock. She's a rock in my life. I can confide in her. She's always there for me. I love her to bits. She's my twin. Where would I be without my twin? But because she feels things strongly, she's really taken this hard with my dad. And it doesn't help that when we were growing up, she was a daddy's girl, right? She's a lot like my dad in that they're both pretty wild and outgoing and extroverted. And I'm a bit more like my mom in that I'm quieter and introverted, like numbers. So, yeah. So they haven't seen eye to eye for a while because of life circumstances and life decisions, and my sister's taking it pretty hard. So yeah, I guess the main issue for me, besides how my sister is treated and how she feels, is trust. So before my dad got divorced from my mom, there's an incident in which some police got involved, and there are some statements made at the house. Now, I didn't live there at the time. I lived by myself. And one day I get a call, and it's like, hey, John, can we come over? It's my dad. I'm like, sure, yeah. So he comes over. He's quite distraught, and we have a talk, and right before he comes over. I get a call from him, and she's raging. I've never ever heard her this mad. I've never seen her as mad since. And she tells me what happened and says that she kicked my dad out of the house, and she calls him out as a adulterer. And I go, oh fuck. To me, adultery, cheating, fucking complete dog shit move. Like, you are amongst the worst of people if you cheat on your partner. That's my personal take. I know some people will say that's a bit extreme, but I really do feel that way. I think it's one of the worst things you could do. Anyways, so I'm like, oh fuck, my dad? Seriously? That's insane. Up until then, my dad had raised me under the virtues of truth, honesty, hard work, and integrity. And I'm like, my dad is a cheater? He's cheating on you? And so he comes over, he tells me what happened at home, and I'm like, okay buddy, you know what, I get it, like what happened, which was shitty, and I'm not gonna get into it. I am really surprised that happened, but let's talk about what I heard, because mom just called me and she told me that you're a cheater. Dad, look me in the eyes and tell me that this isn't true, because this is a betrayal of everything I've ever known about you and that you've ever taught me. And he looked me in the eyes and he said so quietly, so gently, no, John, I didn't do it. Your mom's mistaken. And I go, okay, cool, that's great, because that makes total sense. There's no way my dad would do that. There's no way my dad would do that. The dad who raised me under the virtues of truth, honesty, hard work, and integrity. And so, yeah, so I'm like, yeah, you know what, maybe she's just really upset or something. Like, yeah, I totally believe you, man, that's great. I was really worried for a sec, because, like, yeah, that'd be insane if you had done that. And he goes, haha, yeah, you know, we talked about other things. He didn't go, haha, yeah, but he essentially said, yeah, like, she's just losing her marbles. And I say, yeah, I guess that makes sense. She's secretly upset. And then for the next year, that kind of continued in that, you know, he'd say, yeah, your mom's losing her marbles more. And I'm like, oh God, that's not great. Like, what's going on? He's like, oh, it's her, you know, she's worried about her health or something, or she's just like super suspicious of me since the incident. And I go, oh man, like, you know, I hope like you guys can like this to rest and stuff. And he's like, yeah, just like don't believe anything she says about like this and that. I go, okay, yeah, you know, if you say so, Dad, because again, truth and honesty and integrity and also hard work, but that's like whatever. That's not applicable here. Anyways, a year later, they get divorced. It's all out in the open. My dad had an affair for like a year, and then they went to couples therapy for a year, and then my dad decided it wasn't going to work out, so he called it quits. So then my mom outs him, and he just says, yeah, I did it. I cheated. And, you know, it took me a couple of years to realize. But I think in that moment, I lost my trust in him. Because he was able to look me right in the eyes and say, John, I didn't do it. He could lie so gently and so softly right to my face. And I had promised him, Dad, you know, like, I promise I won't get mad. And I really meant it. Because I'm not going to lie to him about that. And I would have been disappointed, yes. But mad, no. But he didn't have the courage to be honest with me. And so I've realized over the past years that since the divorce, and since this came out into the open, I've realized how much damage it did to my relationship with my dad. It caused tremendous rift between me and him. Before, I believed everything he said, as naive as that is. I took his advice without thinking, because he was my dad, who was a legend. Like, what a guy. Like, he lives large, he works hard, he lives the dream. He walks the walk, he talks the talk, you know. He is a legend, but he's also a liar. And realizing that has been one of the hardest things I've done in my life. So yeah, it took me a couple years to realize just how much damage was done through those series of lies. It wasn't just the fact that he could lie to my face, it was the fact that for the next year he persisted in saying, you know, hey, like, your mom is crazy. Which I believe is like the quite literal working definition of gaslighting. Like, hey, this person is insane, don't believe what they say. And, you know, he had the audacity at some points to say, yeah, your mom's trying to turn you against me. And I was like, wow, oh my god, she's really losing her marbles if she's trying to do that. Like, should we have an intervention? He's like, no, absolutely not, I'll handle it. And I go, okay, thanks, Dad. You know, thanks for looking out for me. You know, thanks for sticking with her through these hard times, because I know you're frustrated, and I am too. But yeah, so now he's got a new relationship with a nice woman. And this lie follows, unfortunately. It's almost like a cloud of dust that just billows about and fills up all the cracks. And so the issue is, now that we've established that he lied to me about cheating, the second question was who it was with. And my mom at the moment, during that first call, told me who it was with. And she said it was this lady. And I go, oh, okay, that's weird. Why would it be this lady? Anyways, that's the person he ends up in a relationship with. And I can't help but wonder, was my mom right? I've asked my dad who it was. And he said, no, John, it's not her. But can I trust my dad? I don't know. This is the problem. And the more I've thought about it, the more I've realized I don't trust her. This has really gone on over the past 2 months, I'd say. There was what he would call a miscommunication. It was what I would call being let down, and someone going back on the word. And I realized it's really hard for me to rely on him and to rely on his word these days. The reason why I'm thinking about this all is yesterday I received a serious diagnosis. I have a very rare condition called hypokalemic periodic paralysis. It affects 1 in 100,000 people, which means that in the world there's roughly about 80,000 people with it, and I'm one of the lucky ones who happens to have it. It has some pretty serious long-term consequences for my well-being. And the testing and medication for it are pretty expensive. And I don't know if I can trust my dad to help me with this. I don't know if I should tell him about it, frankly, because of that. I don't want him to make pledges and promises and then go back on them, because it hurts so much when that happens. On the other hand, I can just ask my mom. She's always been there for me. Without fail. She will crawl through all 9 levels of hell just to fucking give me a $20 bill. Like, the woman is an amazing mother. And as far as I know, she's not lied to me before. So, to me, the answer is kind of clear on who I should go to for help. But it just really sucks that I can't talk to my dad about it, or maybe trust my dad with help with it. So yeah, trust in family. It's important. If I could give any advice to any parent, never lose your kids' trust. I really mean it. For an adult to lose their child's trust, you know what? Maybe they'd be hurt. Maybe they'd wonder what went wrong. But for a child, and I'm not a child, I'm a grown-ass man, but for the kid, it really sucks. I'd go as far to say that it's terrifying. You don't know who you can trust if your dear old dad or mom has betrayed you. Like, if you can't trust your mom and dad, who can you trust? You know? It really does suck when your family lets you down and lies to you. So that's the advice I give. Well, I think that's all we have time for here. Thanks for listening. I'll catch you in the next one.